Welcome back, friends. Last week we talked about the fundamentals of reading rhythms in written music, and this week we're going to dive into some more advanced rhythmic concepts. So as we talked about last week, we have whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes. But there are times when we need to sustain a note longer than a whole note, or we need to have a note that kind of falls in between the other ones. So we have two devices that we can use to accomplish this. We have dots and ties. A dot is simply placing a little dot next to a note. So in our first example, we have a dotted whole note. A dot is going to add half of the duration of the beat. So a whole note, if we recall, is 4 beats. We're going to be adding 2 beats to this with a dot, or a half note. So we will now have a sustained note of 6 beats. But the issue here is that we were talking about common time last week, or 4/4. We can only have 4 beats in a measure, but what if we want a note sustained for 6 beats, although we can only have 4 beats in a measure? This is why we need a tie. A tie can go across a bar line. And it is, in fact, just a little squiggle that ties 2 notes together. So if you look over, we have a whole note and a half note tied together. So this would, again, still be sustained for 6 full beats, but we're going across the bar line now. Now, likewise, we can go down to a dotted half note. So if we take a half note, divide it in half, that gives us a quarter, or 1 beat. We add that to our half note, so we now have a 3-beat note. Likewise, we can take this and we can just have a quarter note tied to a half note to give us a sustained time of 3 beats. Then we can also have a dotted quarter note. A half of a quarter note, if you remember, is an eighth note, which is half a beat in 4/4. So if we have a dotted quarter note, we will have 1 and a half beats. Likewise, we can do this by tying a quarter note to an eighth note. Now, in addition to this, we also have times that we don't want to subdivide a beat 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and in what's called duple. We want to have something that's triple, or 3 beats inside 1 beat, or 1 space of time. And we can do this with what's called a triplet. Now, I'm going to link below to some triplet exercises specific for ukulele, because we have some fun ways that we can really play this on this instrument, but that's a whole technique in and of itself. We're worried here about how to count the triplet. So we're going to talk right now about an eighth note triplet. Now, our triplets, the note that it is what double that is what is going to fall into 1 beat. So we have an eighth note triplet is going to be 1 beat. So if we count it in, it will sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, 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 triplet. Now if we just put that on, say, beat 3, so it would sound like this. We'll have 2 quarter notes, an eighth note triplet, and then 1 more quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, triplet, 4. 1, 2, triplet, 4. Now, likewise, we can just have a quarter note triplet, which would be a half note evenly subdivided into 3 separate beats. So that would sound something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, 3, 4. Triplet, 3, 4. And we can just keep going down like this, evenly subdividing the beat into 3 separate notes. So if we look down our exercise, I've written most of the times over top of this for you, so you don't have to count too much on here. We have a bunch of ties, and then we do have our 1 triplet down below. So let me play and count this first line for you, and then we'll do it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a lot of ties and dots in there. So be very conscious of how long we're sustaining the notes for. Let's try this together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. And now the second line, we have some eighth notes, and then finally we're going to round this out with a quarter note triplet. So the second line will sound something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, triplet. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. So let's try this one together. I know this is a little bit tough. Feel free to pause the video, go back, slow it down, clap this, and take all the time you need with it till you are comfortable with an exercise like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2. Triplet. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. Now, much like last week, I'm going to link more resources down below so you have some worksheets to practice with in addition to the worksheet that I have on my own website. If you ever have any questions, please do reach out, and I will see you all next week in which we dive into reading notes.